The galaxy was old, older than any human mind could truly understand. And in that ancient darkness between stars, there lived beings of such power that younger species called them gods. They were known as the Eternals. No one knew where they came from or how long they had existed. Some said they were the first life in the universe. Others believed they had created the universe itself. What everyone knew for certain was simple. The Eternals watched over the galaxy. They kept balance. They punished the wicked and protected the innocent. At least, that was what everyone believed. Lieutenant Yuna stood alone in the observation room of the Korean Space Command headquarters. The room was dark, except for the glow of a large screen on the wall. On that screen, a video played on repeat. She had watched it 47 times now. She would watch it 47 more. The video showed a planet, Kepler 7b, a human colony world at the edge of explored space. 30,000 people had lived there. Farmers, teachers, children, families, who had left Earth to build a new life among the stars. Her brother Sunwoo had been one of them. The video showed ships appearing in the sky above the colony. Large ships with curved hulls and weapons that glowed with purple light. Valkyrie ships. The footage became shaky as the person recording started to run. Screams filled the audio. Then fire. Then silence. 6 hours. That was how long it took the Valkyrie Empire to kill 30,000 humans. 6 hours to turn homes into ash and dreams into dust. Yuna did not cry anymore. She had used all her tears in the first week. Now there was only a cold, heavy feeling in her chest, like a stone that grew larger every day. The door behind her opened. Light from the hallway spilled into the dark room. "You should sleep," said a deep voice. Yuna did not turn around. She knew who it was. Admiral Taiwu, commander of the entire Korean space fleet. A man who had fought in 3 wars and carried scars on his face like medals. "I will sleep when I am dead," Yuna said. Taiwu walked to stand beside her. He was tall and broad, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much death. He watched the video for a moment, his face showing no emotion. "I lost my daughter on Kepler 7b, he said quietly. "She was a doctor there. She went to help people." Yuna finally looked at him. She saw her own pain reflected in his eyes. "Why?" she asked. The word came out broken. "Why do the Eternals allow this? The Valkyrie have attacked our colonies 12 times in 20 years. They have killed over 200,000 of our people. Where are the gods? Where is their justice?" Taiwu was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was heavy with a truth that hurt to say. "The Eternals protect species that are registered in the Cosmic Registry. Species that have been recognized as members of galactic civilization. Species that matter. And humanity? We are not registered. We discovered space travel only 80 years ago. In galactic terms, we are newborns. Insects. We have no rights under eternal law." Yuna felt her hands close into fists. "So our lives mean nothing? Our children can be burned alive and no one cares?" "The Valkyrie are registered," Taiwu continued. "They have been part of galactic civilization for 50,000 years. The Eternals consider them a sacred species. Chosen ones. Whatever they do to unregistered species is ignored." "That is not justice," Yuna said. "That is murder with permission." "Yes," Taiwu agreed. "It is." They stood in silence, watching the video play again. Watching the purple fire fall from the sky. Watching people run and scream and die. "I did not come here only to share grief," Taiwu said finally. "I came because there may be hope." Yuna looked at him sharply. "Hope? What hope can there be against an empire protected by gods?" Taiwu reached into his uniform pocket and pulled out a small device. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a woman's face, young, intelligent, wearing the white coat of a scientist. "This is Dr. Jisoo," Taiwu said. "She works in a secret research station beneath the mountains of Korea. For 10 years, she has been studying signals from deep space. Signals that the Eternals use to communicate. She can hear the gods talking? More than that, she has found patterns in their communications, rules, protocols, and she has discovered something that changes everything." Yuna waited, her heart beating faster. "The Eternals are not gods," Taiwu said. "They are administrators. They follow laws, just like any government. And those laws have loopholes? What kind of loopholes?" Dr. Jisoo believes that humanity is not unregistered by accident. Someone deliberately removed us from the cosmic registry. Someone wanted us to be invisible, vulnerable, prey. The word hit Yuna like a physical blow. Prey. That was exactly what humanity had been. Animals hunted for sport by the Velthory, with no protection and no recourse. Who would do such a thing? She asked. Taiwu's eyes were hard. Who benefits most from humanity having no rights? Who's been attacking our colonies without consequence for 20 years? Understanding dawned in Yuna's mind like a dark sun rising. The Velthory? They erased us. We cannot prove it yet. But if Dr. Jisoo is right, and we can find evidence, then everything changes. How? Even if we prove it, what can we do? We cannot fight an empire. We cannot challenge gods. Taiwu smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had found a weapon. There is an ancient law, he said, older than the Velthory Empire itself. It is called Karveth, the right of reckoning. If one species commits fraud against another before the cosmic registry, if they erase records, hide evidence, or manipulate the system, then the wrong species gains a special status. What status? The right to deliver punishment. Without limit. Without mercy. Without any intervention from the Eternals. Taiwu's voice dropped low. If we can prove what the Velthory did, we will not need gods to save us. We will become the punishment ourselves. Yuna turned back to the screen. The video was playing again. The purple fire. The screaming. The death of 30,000 innocent people. Her brother's face flashed in her memory. Sungwoo had been kind, gentle. He had gone to Kepler 7b to teach children how to read. He had believed in building a better future. The Velthory had burned that future to ash. What do you need me to do? Yuna asked. Taiwu placed a hand on her shoulder. I am building a team. The best soldiers, pilots, and minds that humanity has. People who have lost everything. People who have nothing left but the desire for justice. I want you to lead them. Yuna looked at the Admiral. She saw the same cold fire in his eyes that burned in her chest. The Eternals stayed silent when our people died, she said. They watched and did nothing. If they will not deliver justice, then we will. Taiwu nodded. Then welcome to Operation Reckoning, Lieutenant. We have work to do. As Yuna walked out of the observation room, she did not look back at the screen. She did not need to. The images of Kepler 7b were burned into her mind forever. The Velthory thought humanity was weak. They thought they could kill humans without consequence. They thought their gods would protect them. They were wrong. And soon, they would learn exactly how wrong they were. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in tunnels that did not appear on any map, Dr. Jisoo worked in silence. Her laboratory was filled with machines that hummed and blinked with strange lights. Screens covered every wall, showing data that most humans would never understand. Jisoo understood it perfectly. She was 34 years old, small in height but large in mind. Her colleagues called her a genius. She called herself obsessed. For 10 years, she had done nothing but study the signals from deep space. Signals that came from the Eternals. Most scientists believed the Eternals were beyond understanding. Gods did not follow rules. Gods did not have systems. Gods simply were. Jisoo knew better. Everything had patterns. Everything had rules. Even gods. The door to her laboratory opened. 3 people walked in. Jisoo recognized Admiral Taiwo immediately. Beside him stood a young woman with hard eyes and military posture. Behind them came a large man with a scar across his jaw. "Dr. Jisoo," Taiwo said. "Thank you for meeting with us." Jisoo pushed her glasses up her nose and looked at her visitors. "Admiral, I assume you received my report." "I did. That is why I brought Lieutenant Yuna and General Dongwoo. They need to hear what you have found." Jisoo nodded and walked to the largest screen in the room. She pressed several buttons, and the display changed to show a complex web of lines and symbols. "For 10 years, I have been recording signals from deep space," she began. "Specifically, signals that the Eternals use to communicate with each other and with the Cosmic Registry." "The Cosmic Registry," General Dongwoo repeated. His voice was deep and rough. "The list of all registered species in the galaxy." "Correct. Every species that wishes to be recognized by galactic civilization must be entered into the registry. Once registered, a species gains certain rights. Protection from unprovoked attack. Access to trade routes. The ability to petition the Eternals for justice. And humanity is not registered," Yuna said. It was not a question. "No. When we made first contact with alien species 80 years ago, we applied for registration. Our application was denied. The reason given was that we were too young, too primitive, too dangerous." "Dangerous?" Dongwoo raised an eyebrow. "We could barely reach our own moon at that time." Jisoo smiled, but there was no humor in it. "That is what I found strange as well. So I started digging. I analyzed every piece of data I could find about the registry. Every communication. Every record. And I found something that should not exist." She pressed another button. The screen changed to show 2 documents side by side. On the left is the official record of humanity's application for registration. It shows that we applied and were rejected due to being a primitive species. And on the right? Taiwo asked. "On the right is a hidden communication I found buried in the eternal frequency band. It is dated 40 years before humanity made first contact with any alien species. 40 years before we even knew the registry existed." The room went silent. "That is impossible," Yuna said slowly. "How could there be records about us before we knew about them?" "Because someone was watching us," Jisoo said. "Someone found Earth long before we found them. And that someone made a decision." She zoomed in on the hidden document. Strange symbols filled the screen, but beneath them, Jisoo had added translations. This communication was sent from the Valkyrie High Council to the Cosmic Registry. It says, and I quote, "Request to classify species 7291 as non-viable for registration. Recommend permanent exclusion from protected status." "Species 7291, Dongwoo said. "That is us? Humanity?" "Yes. The Valkyrie found us 40 years before first contact. They studied us from a distance. They saw our potential. And they decided we were a threat. A threat to what?" Yuna asked. Jisoo pulled up another document. "The Valkyrie Empire survives by conquest. They take resources from unregistered species because those species have no protection. But here is the problem. There are very few unregistered species left. Most have either been registered or destroyed. They needed new prey," Taiwo said quietly. "Exactly. Humanity was perfect. a young species with growing technology spread across multiple planets. We had resources they wanted, and we had no idea the galaxy existed. So they made sure we stayed unprotected. They deleted our records before we even had records. They made us invisible. Yuna's hands were shaking, not with fear, with rage. They hunted us, she said. For 20 years, they attacked our colonies, killed our people, and the whole time, they knew we should have been protected. They knew, and they made sure no one would help us. Yes, Jisoo confirmed. The rejection of our registration application was not because we were primitive. It was because the Valkyrie had already marked us as their property, their hunting ground. General Dongwu stood up. He was a large man, and when he moved, he filled the room with his presence. This is an act of war, he said. Not just the attacks on our colonies. The erasure itself. They declared war on humanity before we even knew they existed. It is worse than war, Jisoo said. Under eternal law, what the Valkyrie did has a special name. It is called Carmel. Cosmic fraud. The deliberate manipulation of the registry to harm another species. And what is the punishment for this Carmel? Yuna asked. Jisoo turned to face her directly. There is no punishment from the Eternals. They do not interfere in matters of fraud. Instead, they grant the wronged species something far more powerful. Karveth, Taiwu said. The right of reckoning. Yes, if we can prove what the Valkyrie did, the Eternals will step aside completely. They will not protect the Valkyrie. They will not limit what we can do in response. We will have the legal right to deliver any punishment we choose. Silence filled the laboratory. The machines hummed. The screens glowed. And 3 humans understood, for the first time, that they held a weapon more powerful than any bomb. How do we prove it? Yuna asked. We have your analysis, but will the Eternals accept it? Jisoo shook her head. No. What I have found is enough to know the truth. But to invoke Karveth, we need the original documents. The communications between the Valkyrie Council and the Registry. The orders to erase humanity. The proof that cannot be denied. And where are these documents? In the central archives on Valkyrie Prime, the heart of their empire. The most heavily guarded location in their space. Dongwu laughed. It was not a happy laugh. You want us to infiltrate the capital planet of an empire that has been slaughtering us for 20 years? Walk into their most secure building and steal their darkest secrets? Yes, Jisoo said simply. That is exactly what we need to do. Yuna looked at Taiwu. The Admiral's face was calm, but his eyes burned with purpose. It can be done, Taiwu said. It will be the most dangerous mission in human history. But it can be done. How? Dongwu demanded. The Valkyrie are telepathic. They will read the minds of any humans who come near them. Not if those humans are trained to resist, Jisoo said. Not if their identities are buried so deep that even they do not know who they are until the mission is complete. I have been working on techniques. Mental shields. Memory suppression. It is possible. Yuna stood up. Her decision was already made. I will go, she said. I will lead the team. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, I will get that proof. Taiwu nodded. I know you will, Lieutenant. That is why I chose you. The Valkyrie thought they could erase us, Yuna said. Her voice was steady and cold. They thought they could make us nothing. But we are still here. We remember what they did. And we will make sure the entire galaxy remembers too. Jisoo watched the young lieutenant with something like hope in her eyes. For 10 years, she had searched for the truth. Now, finally, someone would use that truth as a weapon. The gods had stayed silent. They had watched humanity suffer and done nothing. But humanity did not need gods anymore. They needed soldiers. They needed proof. And they needed the cold, patient anger that only comes from losing everything. The Valkyrie had created that anger themselves. And soon, they would face its full power. 2 years passed. 2 years of training. 2 years of preparation. 2 years of becoming something more than human and less than human at the same time. Captain Hana crouched in the darkness of an alley on Valkyrie Prime. The air was thick with chemicals that would kill an unmodified human in minutes. Her lungs had been changed to filter the poison. Her skin had been altered to match the pale blue color of Valkyrie servants. Her eyes had been modified to see in spectrums that human eyes could never perceive. She looked human on the inside, but on the outside, she was something else entirely. Beside her crouched Sergeant Junho. He was big, even for a human. His body had been enhanced with artificial muscles and reinforced bones. He could punch through a steel wall if he needed to. He hoped he would not need to. Behind them waited 4 more members of the team. Minji, their communications expert. Siwon, their hacker. Yoonji, their medic. And Dayun, their pilot, who waited in a hidden ship 3 kilometers away. 6 humans on a planet of 12 billion Valkyrie. It should have been suicide. But these were not ordinary humans anymore. Status, Hana whispered into her communication implant. Guards at the main entrance rotate every 15 minutes, Minji reported. Her voice came directly into Hana's skull, bypassing her ears entirely. Next rotation in 3 minutes. Siwon? Security systems are running on a 30-second cycle. I can give you a 12-second window when the cameras will show nothing. 12 seconds is not much time. 12 seconds is enough for us, Junho said quietly. His voice was calm. He had trained for this moment for 2 years. They all had. Hana looked up at the building in front of them. The central archives of the Valkyrie Empire. A massive structure of black stone and glowing purple energy. Inside those walls were the secrets of a 50,000-year-old civilization, including the proof that would change everything. Remember the mission, Hana said. We get in. We find the records. We get out. No unnecessary kills. No unnecessary risks. And if the Valkyrie read our minds? Yoonji asked. Her voice was steady, but Hana could hear the fear beneath it. The Valkyrie were telepaths. They could reach into a person's thoughts and pull out every secret. They will not read our minds, Hana said. We do not have minds anymore. Not the kind they can read. It was true. Dr. Jisu's techniques had worked perfectly. Each member of the team had undergone a process called deep burial. Their true identities, their memories of Earth, their knowledge of the mission had all been hidden in layers of false consciousness. On the surface, their minds showed only the thoughts of simple servants. Boring. Empty. Nothing worth investigating. The real thoughts were buried so deep that even the team members could not access them except when triggered by specific signals. It was a strange way to live. Hana sometimes felt like 2 people sharing one body. But it worked. In 2 years of moving through Valkyrie space, preparing for this mission, not a single telepath had detected them. 1 minute to rotation, Minji reported. Hana closed her eyes and centered herself. This was the moment. Everything humanity had suffered for 20 years came down to the next few hours. She thought of Earth, of the blue oceans and green forests she had not seen in 2 years. She thought of her parents, who believed she had died in a training accident. She thought of all the people on all the colony worlds who had been killed by Valkyrie weapons. 30,000 on Kepler 7b, 15,000 on New Sol, 8,000 on Hope Station. The numbers went on, each one representing a life cut short, a family destroyed, a future erased. The Valkyrie had done this because they could. Because no one would stop them. Because humanity was nothing to them but but prey. Tonight, the prey would bite back. Rotation starting, Minji said. Guards are moving. Window in 10 seconds. Hana opened her eyes. Move. They moved like shadows. 6 figures flowing across the dark street, up the wall of the archive building, through a ventilation shaft that Siwan had identified months ago. The shaft was supposed to be too small for Veltari bodies. It was just large enough for modified humans. 12 seconds later, they were inside. The interior of the archive was vast. Rows upon rows of data storage units stretched into the distance. Purple light glowed from the ceiling, casting strange shadows. The air hummed with the sound of millions of terabytes of information being processed and stored. Which way? Junho whispered. Hana consulted the map in her enhanced memory. Level 7. Restricted section. That is where they keep records related to the cosmic registry. They move through the building like ghosts. The corridors were mostly empty at this hour. The few Veltari they encountered saw only servants going about their duties. The team's modified appearances and buried thoughts made them invisible in the most important way. Level 7 was different. Armed guards stood at every door. Security systems scanned everything that moved. This was where the Veltari kept the secrets they never wanted anyone to find. Can you get through? Hana asked Sivan. The hacker studied the systems with enhanced eyes that could see electronic signals directly. Yes, but I will need direct access to the main terminal. That one. He pointed to a console at the center of the room, surrounded by 6 guards. Junho, Yoonji, handle the guards. Quiet. Junho smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. With pleasure. What happened next took less than 30 seconds. Junho moved first, his enhanced body faster than any Veltari could react. 2 guards went down before they could make a sound. Yoonji followed, her smaller frame slipping between the others, her hands finding pressure points that dropped Veltari instantly. It was not fighting. It was art. The art of violence perfected over 2 years of training. When it was over, 6 guards lay unconscious on the floor. Not dead. Hana had been clear about that. They were not here to murder. They were here for justice. Siwan reached the terminal and began working. His fingers moved faster than normal human fingers could move. Code flowed across the screen. Security barriers fell one by one. I am in, he said after 3 minutes. Searching for registry communications. Hana watched the door. Her heart was beating fast. Every second they stayed here increased the risk of discovery. But they had come too far to leave without what they needed. Found it, Siwan said. His voice was strange. Hana, you need to see this. She moved to the terminal. The screen showed a document in the Veltari language. Thanks to her training, she could read it as easily as Korean. It was worse than they had imagined. The document was not just a request to delete humanity from the registry. It was a plan. A detailed plan written 40 years ago. The Veltari had identified Earth as a source of resources and labor. They had calculated how many humans could be harvested before the population collapsed. They had scheduled the attacks on colonies decades in advance. Every raid, every massacre, every death, all planned before humanity even knew the Veltari existed. Hana felt something cold grow in her chest. Not anger. Anger was too hot for this. This was something deeper, something that would never fade. Download everything, she said. Her voice did not shake. Every document related to humanity. Every communication. Every plan. That will take 4 minutes. Then we have 4 minutes. The download progressed. Hana watched the percentage climb. 50%, 60, 70. Alarms began to sound. We have been detected, Minji reported. Guards converging on this level. 30 of them. Can we fight through? Not without killing. And probably not even then. Hannah made a decision. Siwon, how long? 90 seconds. Junho, Yoonji, hold the door. Everyone else, prepare to move the moment the download is complete. Junho positioned himself at the main entrance. His body was a weapon now, every part of him designed for combat. But even he could not hold off 30 guards for long. The first guards arrived. Junho met them with fists and feet and elbows. Bodies flew. Bones cracked. But more kept coming. 60 seconds, Siwon called out. Yoonji joined the fight. Together, they formed a wall of human fury at the doorway. Guards piled up, unable to get through. 30 seconds. A guard got past Junho. Hana stepped forward and put him down with a single strike to the throat. Download complete, Siwon announced. Everyone, fall back to extraction point, now. They ran. Through corridors filled with alarms and flashing lights. Past guards who tried to stop them and failed. Up through the ventilation shaft and out into the toxic night air. Do-hyun had the ship waiting exactly where he was supposed to. They threw themselves aboard, and the engines fired immediately. As the ship rose into the sky, Hana looked back at Velthury Prime, the planet of the enemy, the home of the species that had tried to erase humanity. In her hand, she held a data chip. On that chip was proof. Proof of conspiracy. Proof of murder. Proof that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. We did it, Junho said. He was bleeding from a cut on his face, but he was smiling. We actually did it. Hannah nodded slowly. This is not victory. Not yet. Victory comes when every Velthury ship burns. When every Velthury weapon falls silent. When every being in the galaxy knows what they did to us. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving Velthury Prime far behind. The hunt was over. The reckoning was about to begin. The evidence spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every frequency, every channel, every communication network that existed. The stolen documents from Velthury Prime appeared everywhere at once. Billions of beings on millions of worlds watched as the truth was revealed. 40 years of lies. 40 years of planned murder. 40 years of treating humanity like animals to be hunted. The galaxy saw it all. On Earth, in the war room of the United Defense Council, Admiral Taiwu watched the reactions pour in. Species that had ignored humanity for decades were suddenly paying attention. Messages of support arrived from a dozen worlds. Offers of alliance came from species that had once looked down on humans as primitive savages. But Taiwu was not interested in support or alliances. He was waiting for something else. He was waiting for the gods to speak. 3 days passed. The evidence spread further. Debates raged across galactic forums. The Velthury Empire released statements calling the documents fake, claiming human manipulation, demanding that the galaxy ignore the lies of a lesser species. No one believed them. On the 4th day, it happened. Every communication device in the galaxy went silent at the same moment. Every screen, every speaker, every neural implant stopped receiving normal signals. For 5 seconds, there was nothing. Then the Eternals spoke. Their voice was not sound. It was not light. It was something that existed directly in the mind, bypassing all normal senses. Every conscious being in the galaxy heard it at the same time. We have examined the evidence presented by species 7291, known as humanity. We have verified its authenticity. The documents are genuine. Taiwu felt his heart stop for a moment. This was it. The moment that would decide everything. The Velthury Empire is found guilty of Carmel. Cosmic fraud. They manipulated the registry to deny humanity its rightful status. They planned and executed attacks against an unprotected species using information obtained through fraud. Around the galaxy, billions of beings held their breath. Under the ancient law of Karveth, the right of reckoning is hereby granted. Humanity shall deliver judgment upon the Velthari Empire. We shall not intervene. We shall not protect. We shall not limit. The wronged species has earned the right to exact punishment as they see fit. The message ended. Normal communications resumed, and the galaxy was changed forever. In the war room, silence lasted for 10 seconds. Then someone cheered. Then everyone was cheering. Soldiers who had lost friends in Velthari raids. Officers who had watched colony after colony burn. Scientists who had worked for years to prove the truth. Taiwu did not cheer. He walked to the main display and pulled up the fleet status. 700 warships. 2 million soldiers. Every resource that Earth and its remaining colonies could spare. It was not enough to conquer the Velthari Empire. Their territory was too vast, their population too large. But conquest was not the mission. Punishment was. Lieutenant Yuna stood at his side. In the years since Kepler 7b, she had risen through the ranks. She had led missions behind enemy lines. She had trained soldiers who had never seen combat to become warriors. Now, she would lead the fleet. Commander Yuna, Taiwu said. He had promoted her just that morning. The fleet is yours. Yuna looked at the display. 700 ships. Her ships now. Her responsibility. What are our rules of engagement? She asked. We target military only, shipyards, weapons factories, fleet bases, command centers. Anything that allows the Velthari to wage war must be destroyed. And civilians? We do not kill civilians. We are not them. We do not murder the innocent to punish the guilty. Yuna nodded. This was important. This was what made humans different from the Velthari. The enemy had slaughtered farmers and teachers and children. Humanity would answer with precision, not genocide. The Eternals will not help them, Yuna said. But they will be watching. They want to see what kind of species we really are. Then let us show them, Taiwu replied. Let us show the entire galaxy that humanity knows the difference between justice and revenge. Commander Minji arrived with the final fleet reports. She had recovered from the mission to Velthari Prime and had been given command of the fleet's communication systems. All ships report ready, she said. The fleet can jump in 30 minutes. Make it 20, Yuna said. We have made the Velthari wait long enough. She walked to the main communication console and opened a channel to all 700 ships. Her voice would reach 2 million soldiers who were about to go to war. This is Commander Yuna to all ships. You know why we are here. You know what the Velthari did to our people. For 20 years they hunted us. They burned our colonies. They killed our families. And they did it because they thought no one would stop them. She paused. On every ship, soldiers listened in silence. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are not a species that can be erased. The gods stayed silent when our people died. They watched and did nothing. So we will do what the gods would not. We will deliver justice ourselves. Her voice grew harder. But we are not monsters. We do not kill those who cannot fight back. We do not murder children to punish their parents. The Velthari Empire will lose its ability to wage war. Their military will be destroyed. Their power will be broken. But their people will survive, because we are better than they are. Because humanity does not need to become evil to defeat evil. She took a breath. Today, we fight for everyone we lost. Every person on Kepler 7b, every soul on New Sol, every family destroyed by Velthari weapons. They cannot be brought back, but they can be honored by showing the galaxy that their deaths were not in vain. That humanity remembers. That humanity rises. She looked at the stars on the display. Somewhere out there, the Velthri Empire waited. They had their own fleets, their own soldiers. They would fight back. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. An enemy that had nothing left to lose. An enemy that had been forged in the fire of their own cruelty. All ships, Una said. Begin jump sequence. Target, Velthri Military Staging Ground at Sector 7. Today, we begin the reckoning. 700 ships activated their jump drives. Blue light filled the space around Earth as reality bent and twisted. And then, in the blink of an eye, they were gone. On Velthri Prime, the Emperor watched the human fleet appear on his sensors. 700 ships against an empire. It should have been laughable. But the Emperor was not laughing. He had seen the message from the Eternals. He knew that no help would come. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Velthri would face an enemy without divine protection. Send all available fleets to intercept, he ordered. Destroy them before they can do any damage. His admirals rushed to obey. Orders went out across the empire. Ships launched from 100 worlds. But even as they moved, the Emperor felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. The humans had stolen their darkest secrets. They had proven their guilt before the entire galaxy. They had earned the right to deliver punishment without limit. And now they were coming. Not for conquest. Not for territory. Not for resources. They were coming for justice. And the Velthri had no idea how to fight against that. The war lasted 11 days. 11 days that changed the galaxy forever. It began at Sector 7, where the Velthri kept their largest military staging ground. 50 warships guarded the station, each one larger than anything humanity had built. The Velthri commanders looked at the human fleet and saw easy prey. 700 ships crewed by primitives. It would be over in hours. They were wrong. Human tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Where other species formed neat battle lines and exchanged fire at distance, humans fought like wolves. They attacked from multiple directions at once. They targeted engines and weapon systems instead of trying to destroy ships completely. They used small, fast craft to slip through defensive formations and strike at weak points. But it was not just tactics that made humans different. It was the way they fought. Velthri soldiers were professionals. They fought for duty, for honor, for the glory of the Empire. When the battle turned against them, they retreated to fight another day. Human soldiers did not retreat. They pressed forward no matter the cost. They smiled as they flew damaged ships into enemy formations. They sang songs as they breached warship hulls. They held positions that no one should have been able to hold, simply because giving up was not something they knew how to do. Commander Una led from the front. Her ship, the Indomitable, was always where the fighting was thickest. She had been wounded twice in the first 3 days. She refused to leave the bridge. Why do they keep fighting? Her communications officer asked during the battle at Station Prime. Their fleet is broken. They cannot win. Why do they not surrender? Una watched a Velthri cruiser explode on the display. Because for 20 years, they won every fight. They killed our people and faced no consequences. They do not know how to lose. And we do. We know how to lose everything and keep going. That is why they cannot beat us. By the 5th day, the Velthri military was in chaos. Human forces had destroyed shipyards at 12 different locations. Weapons factories on 6 worlds had been reduced to rubble. The command structure was falling apart as human strike teams targeted admirals and generals with impossible precision. The Velthri tried everything. They sent their best fleets against the human formations. They laid traps with mines and ambushes. They even tried to negotiate, offering peace treaties and territorial concessions. The humans refused every offer. "We are not here for territory," Una told the Veltari envoy who came to discuss terms. "We are not here for peace. We are here for justice. When your military can no longer kill innocent people, we will stop. Not before." The envoy returned to Veltari Prime with nothing. On the 8th day, Captain Hana led the final assault on the Veltari Grand Fleet. 200 human ships against 500 Veltari warships. The largest space battle in galactic history. The Veltari had learned to fear human tactics by now. They stayed in tight formations, covering each other's weaknesses. Their weapons were powerful. Their ships were strong. It was not enough. Hannah had spent 2 years learning how the Veltari thought. She knew their formations. She knew their tactics. She knew exactly where to strike to make them break. "All ships, execute pattern shadow," she ordered. The human fleet split into dozens of smaller groups. Each group targeted a different part of the Veltari formation. Each group hit hard and then retreated before the enemy could respond. It was like being attacked by a swarm of bees. No single sting was deadly, but thousands of stings together could bring down any giant. The Veltari formation held for 3 hours. Then it cracked. Then it shattered. By the end of the day, 300 Veltari warships had been destroyed or disabled. The rest had fled. The Grand Fleet, the pride of the Empire, was broken. On the 11th day, Commander Una stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the last Veltari flagship burn. Sergeant Joho stood beside her, his arm in a cast from the battle at Station Prime. Captain Hana was there too, along with Minji and the other survivors of the original team. "It is done," Junho reported. "Their fleet is gone. Every shipyard destroyed. Every weapons factory in ruins. The Veltari Empire cannot wage war anymore." Una nodded slowly. She felt tired, so tired. 11 days of constant battle. 11 days of watching friends die. 11 days of delivering the punishment that humanity had earned the right to deliver. "And the Eternals?" she asked. "Still watching," Minji said. "They have sent no communication since granting us Carveth." Una looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them, beings of unimaginable power observed what humanity had done. They had watched humans fight. They had watched humans win. They had watched humans choose mercy for civilians, even while showing none to military targets. What did the gods think of humanity now? It did not matter, Una decided. Humanity had proven something far more important than winning the approval of ancient beings. They had proven something to themselves. "Send a message to all remaining Veltari forces," she said. "The war is over. Their military capability has been destroyed. We will not pursue further action against civilian populations. But if they ever rebuild their fleets, if they ever threaten humanity again, we will return. And next time, we will not be so merciful." The message went out. Across the former Veltari military network, survivors heard the human terms. No one argued. No one protested. The Veltari Empire, which had stood for 50,000 years, accepted defeat from a species they had tried to erase. 1 year later, humanity's name appeared in the cosmic registry, not as applicants, not as petitioners, as conquerors. Dr. Jisu reviewed the entry from her laboratory on Earth. She had not slept well since the war began. Even now that it was over, she still dreamed of the documents she had found. The plans, the calculations, the cold efficiency with which the Veltari had scheduled the murder of millions. But the entry in the registry gave her hope. Beside humanity's name was a note that no other species had ever received. It said, "Species granted reckoning authority. Survived. Delivered judgment. Approach with caution. Admiral Taiwu retired to a small house by the ocean." He spent his days watching the waves and thinking about the daughter he had lost on Kepler 7b. She would have been proud, he decided. Proud of what humanity had become. Yuna and Hannah and Junho and Minji did not retire. They built a new fleet, not for conquest, not for revenge, for something better. Because now, when smaller species cried out against injustice and the Eternals stayed silent, there was another option. A human ship appearing in orbit. A calm voice on the communication channel. A simple message. We heard you. We are here to help. The first call came from a species called the Morith. They were small, peaceful people who had been attacked by raiders for generations. They had prayed to the Eternals for help. The Eternals had ignored them. Then a human fleet arrived. 3 ships and 50 soldiers. They tracked down the raiders and destroyed them in a single day. When the Morith asked what they owed for this help, the human commander smiled. Nothing, she said. Someone should have helped us when we needed it. No one did. We will not make that mistake with others. The word spread. Across the galaxy, species that had been ignored and abandoned began to whisper a new name. Not gods. Not Eternals. Something else. Humans. The beings who had been erased from cosmic records and refused to disappear. Who had been hunted like animals and became the hunters instead. Who had earned the right to deliver punishment without limit and chose to show mercy. The Eternals watched all of this from their places beyond normal space. They had existed for billions of years. They had seen millions of species rise and fall. They thought they had seen everything. They were wrong. Humanity was something new. Something that should not have been possible. A species that had been crushed and broken and rebuilt itself into something stronger. For the first time in their ancient existence, the Eternals felt something unfamiliar. They felt respect. And perhaps, just perhaps, they felt something else. Fear. Because if humanity could do all of this with 80 years of space travel and 700 ships, what would they become in 1,000 years? In 10,000? In 1,000,000? The gods had stayed silent when humanity suffered. They had watched and done nothing. Now they would watch humanity rise. And they would wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Because some species prayed to gods for salvation. And some species became the salvation themselves. Humanity was the second kind. And the galaxy would never be the same.